Rediscover your past by digitizing your family's memories with Legacy Box. Watch until the end of this video to find out more about preserving your legacy, and then visit legacybox.com/recollection. Social media has become a ubiquitous part of modern life, but it wasn't always this way. In fact, life was very different prior to the emergence of platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Here are just a few ways life was different before social media. Socializing was more face-to-face. Prior to social media, and especially its integration into smartphones, people spent a lot more time talking in person. They would meet up with friends and family and engage in activities that brought people together, like playing cards at home, going out to dinner with friends, or even throwing a neighborhood party. Without the ability to connect online, people were more likely to make an effort to see each other in person, which led to stronger, much more meaningful connections. News was also much different. Before the likes of Twitter, people relied on more traditional news sources like newspapers, radio, and basic network TV to stay informed about current events. They weren't able to easily access news from around the world instantly through social media feeds. This meant that people had a more localized and curated understanding of what was happening, as they were exposed to stories that were relevant to their immediate community. They also had to wait until the next day's newspaper, or even the next news broadcast to get the latest updates on breaking news. This meant that people had much more time to process and reflect on what was happening before forming their own opinions, which usually led to more thoughtful conversations and debates. Communication was also slower, and we kind of liked it that way. Prior to checking social media apps every other second, people communicated by writing letters to each other, making phone calls, and having face-to-face conversations. You couldn't simply send a text message or post a status update and expect an immediate response. Instead, we had patience and waited for a reply, which made conversational interactions more intentional and deliberate. Before social media, research was isolated to just a few places, like the library. Before the internet, people had to physically go to libraries to do research for school or work. They had to search through books, journals, and other printed materials to find what they needed. This meant that research was a more time-consuming process, but it also meant that people had to be more thorough and selective in the sources they used. For many people today, research has been replaced with whatever shows up in our Facebook newsfeed. Entertainment, as we know it today, was much more limited, which meant we had a lot more free time. Prior to social media, people actually watched program TV, or went to the movies to catch the newest blockbusters. There were fewer options for entertainment, which meant that people weren't filling their free times by taking selfies, refreshing Instagram, and posting about their latest vacation. This meant that people had more shared cultural experiences, as we were all watching the same shows when they aired, or seeing the popular movies of the day, and then discussing them the next day with friends and coworkers. Sharing photos was such a different experience prior to social networks. Photos were shared in physical photo albums, or by projector slideshows in their living rooms. We had to be very selective in the photos we took. Then we had to develop the film, maybe even order duplicate copies, and then store them in a book that could be shared when company came over. This made sharing photos more of an event, as people would often gather together to see the photos that were taken on the latest family vacation. There was a time when personal documentation was much more private. Before social media, people were much better at keeping things to themselves. Personal diaries or journals were written in and were not meant for public consumption. Thoughts and feelings could be documented without worrying about how others would perceive them. This allowed people to be more honest and introspective, which led to greater personal growth and self-awareness. Remember when dating was more than just swiping? Prior to social media, people met potential partners through friends, family, or in-person events. They didn't have the aid of dating apps to suggest potential matches. This meant that people had to rely on their own social skills and intuition to make connections with others. It also meant that dating was a more difficult process, as single people had to put in more effort to get to know someone and determine if they were a good match for themselves. Privacy was also much different before the rise of big tech. Before social media, people had more control over their personal information and their privacy. They certainly didn't have to worry about their personal data being collected and sold to advertisers or third-party companies. From your exact demographics to social security numbers and credit card information, many of us have become desensitized to giving this information to any platform. People once were more likely to make personal privacy a priority, which led to a greater sense of security. Brand marketing prior to social media was done through traditional marketing channels like TV commercials, billboards, and print ads. Companies didn't have direct access to their exact customers through social media. Nowadays, companies can market directly to the age group and gender that buys their products, because social media profiles provide them this information. Prior to this, brand loyalty was built more through the quality of the product and the reputation of the company, rather than through social media presence or influencer partnerships. Before social media, politics was much less divided. People engaged in political discussions through in-person meetings, debates, and rallies. They didn't have the platform to easily share and amplify their one-sided political views through social media, which meant that political discourse occurred more often and was more thoughtful. It also meant that people had to be more informed about the issues and the candidates they were voting for, instead of relying on a viral tweet or Facebook post to form their opinions. Before Facebook memories came along, people relied on their own memories and tangible keepsakes like photo albums, camcorder tapes, and journals to document their experiences and milestones. Their photos and posts were archived automatically and shared back with them each year, which meant that memories were more personal and cherished. It also meant that people had to rely on their own recollections and the stories of others to remember events and moments from their past, rather than simply scrolling through their social media feeds. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything, and maybe even consider supporting the channel over on Patreon. Recollection Road has partnered with Legacy Box because we're both all about preserving the past. Why not do the same with your own family home movies and photos? Legacy Box is the simple, safe, they've thought of everything solution for converting your home movies and photos to thumb drive or the cloud. Just send in your Legacy Box filled with old VHS and camcorder tapes, film reels, and pictures, and get back digital copies that can be easily enjoyed, shared, and kept organized. It's that easy. Not only is Legacy Box trusted by over 1 million people, but it's professionally digitized right here in the USA. Get started preserving your past today. Go to legacybox.com/recollection to get an incredible 55% off. Buy today to take advantage of this exclusive offer and send in your memories when you're ready. Go to legacybox.com/recollection to save 55% while supplies last. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching this playlist, and then visit the channel to search the Recollection Road library. As always, thank you so much for watching.